If you're watching this, then chances are you're a man who lives in the Western world. You may be a young man, a Zoomer, or you may be slightly older, could be a millennial, or Gen X, or even a boomer. And you may be a man who suffers from low self-esteem, or anxiety, social anxiety, or something in that sort of vein that you feel holds you back from realising your full potential and living your life the way you want to live it, ideally. You may have dreams of having a family, or getting a good job, or starting a business, or, whatever it is that you see as being the worthwhile life. And when you're struggling with your feelings of inadequacy, or anxiety, or isolation, you're probably used to receiving, by this point, advice, blue pill normie advice. Things like, just be yourself, or the big one, just be confident. Yes, we're told to just be confident in the way that you would be told to just be alive, like it's something you can just do effortlessly. Just do this, just do that. Well, it's not that easy, is it? It's not easy to just be confident. Well, I'm going to tell you something now that will hopefully reorient your thinking, because state of mind and your frame of mind when you approach life and approach problems is the number one factor to success. And what I'm going to tell you now is, don't just be confident, but instead be brave. Now, upon first glance, confidence and bravery may seem like the same thing, and they are related, of course, but they're not the same thing. They're quite different, actually. So, just be confident. You've heard that a million times. That's the advice that a woman would give to a man. We in the Western world live in a very feminized, femme-brained society, and increasingly so. Men are not really allowed to be men. We're not allowed to exercise our impulses in the way that the opposite sex would prefer. They don't like violence, they don't like conflict, they want to just get along, they want to be socially acceptable, they don't want to rock the boat, women I mean. Whereas men, naturally, we have inbuilt drives that make us want to charge head on into our problems. We want to solve our problems. We like to solve problems, we like to dive in, we like to get our hands around the problem firmly and solve it. But this is too proactive for the modern feminized world. This is too aggressive, quote unquote. It's just not acceptable. And so we're frequently provided with watered down versions of helpful advice. Like I said before, we're always told to be confident, but I'm telling you, you need to be brave. Now, of course, you do need to be confident, but it's not easy to achieve, and it requires a lot of hard work to achieve that way of thinking, that way of going about your life, of being confident. It's not a case of just do it. It's work for a very long time on getting to a point where you can do it somewhat effortlessly, and it could take years. It could take a decade or more. Depends on you. Depends on your individual circumstances, how you're born, what your gifts are, what your inbuilt natural capabilities are, things like that. We're not all equal. That's the biggest lie of the modern age, of modernity, is that we're all equal. We're not all equal. A person isn't even equal to himself from day to day. You have good days and bad days. So we're not all equal. Of course we're not. That's just common sense. But the idea that we are all equal, or should be all equal, has taken root, sadly, like a weed that needs to be pulled up. And so just be confident isn't helpful advice at all. Not at all. It's actually quite detrimental, because when somebody tells you just be confident, that makes you think, well, if it's a case of just do this, then it should be easy to do. and I can't do it, so what's wrong with me? And I won't sugarcoat it. There could be something wrong with you. If you have crippling anxiety, crippling low self-esteem, etc., then there is a problem. But it's a problem that can be solved, like I said, if you're brave, if you just tackle it head on. And just be confident is, like I said, it's the advice that women give to men. Well, in the past, when young men have been going off to fight in a war, or they've had to undertake a dangerous activity, to save somebody or what have you, a fireman running into a building or something similar to that. Did those young men's superiors say to them, just be confident before they did it? No, they didn't. What did they say to them? They would have told them something along the lines of, be brave. Be brave, men. Be brave, soldier. Be brave. That is the advice that a man gives to another man. Just be confident is something a woman or a feminized man who is fully drenched in modern thought would say. But a man says to another man, be brave. And that's what you need to do. You need to tackle things head on. You need to try and put those nagging doubts. You can't get rid of them, of course you can't. And you shouldn't bury them either. You should confront them. You should acknowledge that they're there and face them. And then, once you've done that, you'll realise that all they are is thoughts. And then you can make the necessary steps. You can do what you need to do. And you'll notice that I haven't said just be brave, because saying that is as unhelpful as saying just be confident. But bravery comes more naturally to a man than confidence does. In days gone by, even peasants, people who were dirt poor, they were capable of great bravery. If an invading force came to their village or their town, they would pick up their weapon and they would jump in and they would fight. Confidence, however, would be the ability to navigate political situations and negotiate deals and things like that. And that comes naturally to some men, but not all. But bravery does come naturally to the vast majority of men. Some are just cowards. Some are. History is rife with cowards. But the majority, the overwhelming majority of men are capable of being brave. You can be brave. If somebody broke into your house, you would tackle them. You would. Even though the law doesn't want you to do that, depending on where you are. But you would do it, because that would just come naturally. Fight or flight is bravery. The fight part is bravery. Sometimes it makes sense to flee, if you're facing overwhelming odds. But most men, they can be brave. Confidence is it's a social lubricant. And it's very feminine in its nature, but bravery is a man's domain. Women can be brave. Children are capable of acts of great bravery. Of course they are, but if they fail to act, if they in the moment don't behave bravely, they're not considered failures. But with us it's different. We have to be brave. It's an expectation that everyone places on ourselves, and it's one that we should place upon ourselves as well, because we can do it. You can do it. Thanks for listening.